It's Elise here at Bowman Library with a whole new middle grade book spotlight. So our theme for this week, we are exploring both fiction and nonfiction titles that are all about the Civil War, that time period in our history, that 1861-ish to 1865-ish, the war between the North and the South. Yeah. We're taking a look at some books that deal with that. Some deal with the before, some deal with the during, some deal with some of the after, some focus on events that maybe you've heard of, some others, we have one in particular, I had never even heard of it until I read the book, which is amazing. We'll talk about that one here in a few minutes. But these are all about the American Civil War, 6 amazing titles, so let's get started. Our first one is Guts and Glory, the American Civil War. What I love about this one is if you want to learn more about the Civil War, this is the book for you. Now this book examines, again, like an overview. We get the before, the during, the after. Each time features another story, maybe some of one that you've heard of before, people you've heard of, maybe ones you haven't. This is all going to be brand new for you. Now each chapter can be read individually and some can be skipped if you wanted. They don't lean on one another, which is amazing. There are other books in this series if you want to read more. Maybe the Civil War isn't your interest, but maybe you love the format of this book. There's some about World War II, there's one about Vikings, there's one about American Revolution, but it's filled with some amazing, you get some drawings in here, you get little areas in here, little sidebar stuff, and you get to read a little bit about everything with the Civil War here. I mean, look at that, right here, what are some things after? Amazing book if you want an overview. This is Guts and Glory, the Civil War. Big Bad Ironclad, a Nathan Hale graphic novel. You know, I love these. So this one, in this history-filled graphic novel, this is all about the race between the North and the South to see which army could successfully create and build the first ironclad warship that existed, that was functional, but this was not going to be an easy task, okay? You will be along for this journey as engineers and builders problem solve through a variety of issues, from the weight of the ship to what do you do when the ship starts leaking? How are you gonna fit cannons on this ship? How are you gonna fight from this ship? How are you gonna protect yourself? All that type of stuff. This will eventually lead to the first ironclad battle of ships in history between the two ships which will be known as the Monitor and the Merrimack. That's right. Each side is able to build one, but only one at the end of the day will be left standing, okay? So you'll be turning the pages as fast as you can so you can learn what ship comes out on top. Yeah, and learn a little bit of some Civil War history along the way. And this amazing, again, love Nathan Hale books. If you've read some before, you know exactly what you're getting. Big Bad Ironclad. Okay, this is this one I was talking about earlier. Let me preface this one. Sinking the Sultana. If you watched enough of these, you know I love nonfiction books that talk about stuff that, why didn't we learn about this? You know, what is this thing in history that is so mind-blowing? Why am I just reading about this? And this is one of those books, one of those moments in our history, okay? It's April 1865, so Civil War is starting to wind down, and prisoners from both sides, okay? So both armies capture soldiers from the other side, and they keep them prisoner in these camps, these prisoner camps with very horrible conditions. You read about some of that in here. As the war starts to wind down, they start exchanging prisoners. So Union soldiers can go back home to the North, Confederate soldiers can come back home down to the South. And this is all about some Union soldiers who are leaving a Confederate prisoner of war camp down in Tennessee. Now this camp housed over 2,000 Union soldiers. And when they released them all at once, and they were all put onto, are you ready? One ship. Okay, they were put onto this ship named the Sultana, which was this steamboat that was on the Mississippi River, and it was going to send them back up north. There were a couple of problems though. The Sultana was not in the best of shape. There were some pretty shoddy repairs done. There were repairs that weren't done that needed to be done because the owners were greedy. And here's even the most like outrageous part of this. And imagine if you can picture this, okay? The Sultana had over 2,000 people on board. This ship could only hold, are you ready? 376 people. So let's just keep that in mind. We got a pretty bad overcrowding, overweight issue as well, putting a ton of strain on this vessel. Okay, now there are multiple factors at play as the ship starts to make its way up north, up the river. And what would happen on this journey would make the Sultana the largest, worst maritime disaster in our history. To this day, there are more people that died during the sinking of the Sultana than on the Titanic. Keep that in mind. And have we ever heard of this? Have you heard of the Titanic? Oh yeah. So more people have died on this than on the Titanic. When the Sultana ended up exploding and sinking in the Mississippi River. Again, true events in history, one that you probably have never heard of. Again, I love this. It is filled with firsthand tons of photos. We have photos, there's diagrams. It takes you kind of on an hour by hour type deal. Here we go, we got more. Kind of gives you like what was the lead up to this, what happened hour by hour during this event, and then what was the aftermath, and did anything change from this? Highly encourage this one, especially if you love some nonfiction, Sinking the Sultana. The Journal of James Edmund Peace. So this is part of the My Name is America series. In this diary format story, 16-year-old James is serving as a soldier in the Union Army when he is given the job of being the recorder of their history. He has no idea what that really honestly means, so he just starts writing everything down. From the boring stuff of what it's like to be in camp, to having to walk for miles every single day, but also then the excitement and the danger of what it's actually like when they are caught up in a battle and they are fighting the other side, and the horrors that come with it during and after, both physically, mentally, emotionally. Things come to a head for James though then one evening when he finds himself mistakenly behind enemy lines, and he has no idea how he's going to get out of this or back to his regiment without being caught and then sent to one of those prisoner war camps, or maybe even shot and killed. This story is told through first person. It's based off of other journals kept by soldiers during the Civil War. Highly recommended if you want kind of that diary journal / format. The Journal of James Edmund Peace. Silent Thunder. So it's Virginia in 1862, and siblings Roscoe and Summer, they've grown up in slavery. That's all they've ever known. Roscoe's 13, Summer is 11, and they've spent their entire lives living on the Parnell plantation. You will be with them as each have their own secrets and dreams. Summer, for example, all she wants to know is who her father is. She can't stop asking that who her father is. Plus, she just starts wondering things and asking questions out loud. And as a slave, it was really dangerous for them to ask questions, especially the types of questions that Summer finds herself asking. And it could get her into some pretty serious trouble. As for Roscoe, he has an even bigger secret because due to his time, his role that he attends the young master up at the main house, while he's there, he actually learned how to read, which is something that slaves were not allowed to do. It is when their master has a stroke that Roscoe decides he's going to take a chance. And he runs away so he can join the Union Army to help fight for the end of slavery. Now, this is told through both of their points of view, and you will get to see how their lives were impacted every day just because of the color of their skin and the time they were living in. This is Silent Thunder. And our last one is another nonfiction. This one is incredibly awesome too. This is Mr. Lincoln's High-Tech War. Now, if you enjoy reading about inventions, innovations, how life has changed over time, then this is for you. Now, this takes a look at all the advancements that were made prior and during the Civil War. And at the time, it made it the most high-tech war that was ever fought. And I know when we think of high-tech today, we think this stuff is like not high-tech at all, but at the time, this stuff had never happened before, or items had not been used in the way they were to fight the Civil War. And this was groundbreaking. This was like mind-shattering type stuff. Now, each chapter focuses on an invention or an innovation that changed not only how people lived their lives, but also fought wars, from new spying tools like using hot air balloons, that hadn't been done before, observation balloons, but also to the use of telegraphs and telegrams that they can send messages in real time. They didn't have to write it down and send someone on a horse and hope they get there in a couple of days. They could just send it, and you had it like pretty instantly, depending on where you were located. There were railroads for the first time, and they were able to move around massive amounts of people and supplies. Plus, you could also, like, if someone had a railroad and you cut it off, you cut off their supply chain or their people moving. There were pros and cons. There's also a focus on the advances that were made in weaponries and warfare and ships. This is filled with photos, diagrams. Like here we go, like here's some photos. Like this one's all about, the railroad, this chapter right here. There's little sidebars, this one's about Morse code. There we go, here's the observation hot air balloon stuff. So amazing read, especially if you want to read not necessarily about the war itself, but how things changed to make the war, how it was fought, possible. Mr. Lincoln's High-Tech War. So these are 6 of the books that we have here down at the library that are about, based on, inspired by the Civil War. So I encourage you to come out, check out one of these. Or if you want to read about the Civil War, but maybe not one of these, I promise we have plenty of others that we're totally here to help you find so you can read that perfect book that's going to have you turn in the page as fast as you can. I hope you tune back next week when we have a whole new middle grade book spotlight, and I hope you have an amazing week.